Chilanga Converses.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Chilanga Converses. We're here today to talk about our beloved country, Zambia. This is Zambian Discussion, and I am your co-host, Mulundu, aka the Kingpin.
And I'm Mr. Pars, you can call me Sunday.
So to start things off, we're going to talk about a homegrown local talent. Here, from our country, the one and only Patson Daka.
Yep, currently playing at RB Salzburg.
RB Leipzig.
RB Leipzig, my bad.
Yes.
But it's still in Europe, and we are proud of him reaching those heights.
Absolutely. So he has managed in 45 games to score 27 goals and bag 12 assists. So early on in his career, he was playing second fiddle to Erling Haaland. But upon Erling Haaland's departure to Dortmund, he has stepped up and he's done some amazing things for the club.
And Europe has recognized his ability to step up and his ability to provide, saying that he is well worth his amount.
Yes. So there's interest from some top European clubs. There's Arsenal and Liverpool who are looking to snap him up.
Okay, that's good.
And also he's been offered to West Ham.
West Ham. I recall seeing something about Tottenham as well. Or was that just a rumor?
Well, lots of clubs are circling. At one point there was a rumor that he could have gone to Manchester United.
That would have been good. I think that would have been like a great choice.
That would have been stellar. Absolutely stellar. But there's only great things ahead for his career. I mean, he's been voted Player of the Month, number of times, and fans love him. Back home, he is a hero. So wow, the sky's the limit for this dude.
It's like he's gone further than Mayuka did. He ended up at Southampton. He didn't exactly play a lot of games, and I think he only ever scored one goal. But Patson, it's different because he's young. He hasn't yet reached his peak. He's learning a lot, and he's already reached so far.
Definitely, it's exciting to watch him play. He is on the same team with a Zambian teammate. This guy called Enoch Mwepu. They call him the computer.
The computer?
Yes, because of how he can analyze the game and read those passes, make the link-up plays, Yes.
Is he a defender, midfielder?
He's a midfielder.
Okay.
He's a midfielder, yes. So we hope that the boys can replicate their amazing displays once they play for Zambia. The big stages, maybe Africa Cup of Nations or World Cup qualifier. These dudes could fire goals into the net and see us ascend to greater heights.
Also, hopefully the work ethic that they have will trickle down to other aspiring footballers in this country and realize how hard they should be working and how they should dedicate as much time as possible to their craft. There's a Zambian player, Charlie Musonda. Well, the thing is, he prefers to go by the Belgian nationality. Okay. Is he the one that plays at Chelsea?
Yes, he is.
All right.
So efforts were made for him to come and play for Zambia, to convince him, like, dude, just play for Zambia, it'll be awesome. But he prefers to go with Belgium. So for us to have such a powerhouse of a player in Patson Daka, it'll be interesting, man, just how far he can take things in his career.
Okay. So there's that argument that people are having currently, which is, should he stay where he is at the moment, develop more experience, become a stronger player, or should he go? Because in a way, if he does go, that in itself could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
He could fail and then start to regress, end up on the bench, and not see game time, or he could meet the challenge face on and become an even greater player because he's surrounded by so much star quality, as well as like a bigger challenge to provide those results.
If I was in his circle of advisors, I would spur him on to joining a bigger club. You know, bigger stage, bigger platform. You create more of an impact. His social media following would increase. He would put the spotlight on Zambia. People would be curious about Zambian football. And I mean, this is a great footballing nation, Zambia.
Yeah.
You know, in the 90s we were always up there, you know. I remember hearing about this one match, Zambia and Italy, and we beat them like 4-0.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you know. And we also have won the Africa Cup of Nations, so yes, he should move forward with his career. You know, he shouldn't get stuck in a rut.
And the way I look at it, if he does move to a big team and he does fail and he gets transferred to another team, he should just keep the same amount of enthusiasm, because I look at players like Lukaku and I look at players like Mohamed Salah. They went to Chelsea. They failed, basically. They failed because they weren't ready yet. And what happened is Lukaku, he then went to Everton, and Salah, he went to Roma. And they went to do big things in those small teams, and then they went back to even bigger teams.
So the common denominator is avoid Chelsea.
Well, from a Man United fan's perspective. But then didn't Lukaku go to Man United and fail miserably there?
He did.
And then he had to go to Inter to do bigger and better things.
But that's just like one case example that you give. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, we're going to look at the land case. So a few episodes back, we talked about there were shootings that happened, and two people, a prosecutor and a party member, died. So the reason why these people were shot is because they went and showed solidarity with the leader of the main opposition party here in Zambia, and there was a heavy police presence in order for security purposes. And basically this case has been decided, the one that led to HH, as he's commonly known, to be questioned by the police. And according to the courts, there is a limitation act. Yes. So the courts say that this case was time bound, right? So that means that the period within which the matter should have been brought before the courts and tried has elapsed. Yes.
It has elapsed.
It has elapsed.
But wasn't it brought like as immediately as possible?
Well, it wasn't, because...
Wait, we're talking about the HH case.
Yes.
Oh, okay, no, that one I can understand. That was over a decade ago.
So this was over. It's a land case. In connection with land that he had in Kalomo, one of the districts in Southern Province. So the courts have said that this case cannot be heard because there's a Limitation Act, and certain sections of the Limitation Act state that the matter as it stands cannot be heard. So the case has been thrown out of court, and now you find that the people who lost their lives
pretty much for nothing.
For nothing.
This is why last time when we talked, I stated, like, did it have to be such a huge spectacle of a thing? Because if anything, the prosecution the people who brought this case, I guess through the channels, you know, this is a case we want to try. They should have known immediately. This is, according to the law, this is decades old, and it can't be processed now. So why did they have to put it forward?
You know, this points to inefficiency in the way some of our government offices work, right? Speaking on this same matter regarding the shootings, the report was published, right? The report talking about exactly what transpired. Now, the thing is, what has been done with this report? This report has been given to the Director of Public Prosecutions. So the Director of Public Prosecutions is more or less like the district attorney in the United States.
Choosing which cases to go after and
Exactly.
which ones,
Director of Public Prosecution. Right. So now the thing is, if any headway was supposed to be made with this, it was supposed to be referred to the Office of the Attorney General and not the Director of Public Prosecutions, because this is merely just a report. So it's like you're asking that office to prosecute on a matter which doesn't even have any leads that you could prosecute on. You know, so it's very disturbing at the least, you know, for something like this. It's
like a no-brainer.
Exactly.
Because this is not based off any of my own legal understanding, but actually it is. When they deliver these reports to the DA or somebody to prosecute, to take to trial, you have to provide evidence, you have to provide witness testimonies, it has to be backed up so that you know that they can push it forward. But you giving it to them just as a report, it's like, what do you want them to do with it?
So maybe from there they're supposed to identify just who the perpetrators were, see if they can charge them with anything and move forward. But then, like, all of this, even just the way that the matter has been handled, and now that the case has been dismissed, it's like efforts for nothing. You know, it's like in the first place, the case, and the thing is, the reason why I brought up the Office of the Public Prosecutor is that the Public Prosecutor should know, they should have it within their scope of reasoning and understanding, you know, because they have been trained legally to know whether this case could be pursued or not, whether it's time barred, what the court's position would be regarding taking this case to court. You know, so from the beginning, you trying to try the opposition leader, it's like an exercise on futility. You know, you're wasting state resources for one, and you are dragging somebody through the mud, and people died, and then afterwards the report is mishandled. So it just seems it's like taking a bite from a rotten apple, you know, just not great.
And the problem with the case with the shootings is that once you bring that into investigation, it ties back to that same case, which is decades old. So they'd have to go through what is the agenda behind that, why is this happening, and who comes out clean, really, throughout all of that.
So that's how things stand. So you start to think to yourself, you know, maybe is there an agenda at hand? You know, is he being prosecuted unfairly? You know, was it just political? Was this done because it would be expedient politically to, you know, like a smear campaign or something like that?
And looking at the amount of time that has elapsed between the shooting and now, looking at the action that was taken, they just fired somebody. And I don't think they're gonna talk about it again. Like, in their minds, it's been dealt with.
And everybody should move on. But the families are still asking for an inquest, some sort of formal mechanism that's going to investigate and give answers, because you don't want a situation where 6 months down the line, 5 years down the line, you hear of a ghost report that never really divulged details as to who could be held responsible and who to try, if anything.
Or worst case scenario, 5 to 10 years later, they want to actually act on it then. And then they'll tell them the same thing the people who tried to persecute HH were told. Like, look how much time you have taken to bring this matter here. Like, it's to act promptly. You know? As soon as something happens, start the process.
Yep. So, that is unfortunate. There was a police officer, though, who was charged. He had 2 counts of abuse of office and rape. Right. So, yes, the story is at a police post in Luanshya, a part in the Copperbelt, a town in the Copperbelt of Zambia. He allegedly raped this woman at the inquirer's office of the police station. Yes.
I'm trying to process the information, so I don't see how that even happens.
Yes, because the police station, at least you should have like 2-3 officers there.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking in a case like that, it's everybody's fault. Like, everyone who was there in the police station, the people who worked the schedule, all of this, because there should be no point where one person has the time to be able to carry out such an act. And even get dressed afterwards.
The inquiry's office is basically the front desk of the police station, right? So the front desk is open to the public 24 hours. So anybody could have walked in, anybody could have seen what was happening. The court said that the sexual act was consensual between man and woman, and that nothing of the sort regarding rape happened.
But was this police officer fired?
If the sexual act is consensual, that means
even if it's consensual, you're still having sex on the job. that's I mean, okay, you're not in the wrong for that. You won't go to prison, but like, you still did this on the job. Like, you're fired. If anything, shouldn't there be some other case that you can bring against him for, I don't know, desecrating the image of
the badge,
just something. 'Cause that's just beyond unprofessional.
If he has been fired, it hasn't made the news, but hey, if the court said he did nothing wrong, then perhaps the police service will carry the same sentiments and say that he did nothing wrong on the job, so he should keep his job.
What do you mean he did nothing wrong on the job?
I'm speculating.
Okay, you're speculating. But looking at that stance, if you can have sex on the job, but you can't drink on the job, I mean, they're both kind of, they hold you back from executing your duties and your responsibilities.
I wonder just what happened between the two of them, because for you to be doing this at the front desk of the police station, did she come in for help and she was like, I need you to help me with this, and then he sweet talks her
and then she's like, oh, but you good looking. The inquiry can wait. But
he played good cop, bad cop on her.
But how was the case brought forward? Did she go to like report and say that this is what he did to me.
Yes. She reported the case.
But if she
went to trial,
if she said it wasn't consensual, and how do they reach that verdict? Because is it not her who was there in this situation, or is it because there's no evidence? I just don't understand how they come to the conclusion.
Well, the court, being the adjudicator in that process, must have employed all the rules of evidence, for starters, and come to the logical conclusion that it was consensual, based on all the facts that were present in the case. So the likelihood of the court having passed a wrong judgment, you'd say, could be slight, or it may be more substantial than slight, but all things considered, the courts have the last say.
I'm also thinking about the ripple effect that this will have towards people who may have been victimized or have gone through something like this where a predator has taken advantage of them. Like how much faith they would have to report this to the system, because it's been proven that it doesn't matter if you report it.
Well, maybe he's seeing that this could be an exceptional case, in that the person who was charged is a police officer, So you could say that. I mean, if we're to be bluntly honest, right? A person who is a police officer should know some people who are involved in the justice system, and with a few phone calls, you could persuade people to come around to your view of things.
Yeah, it just makes the whole case about people in power abusing those who don't have any just that much stronger. And it's quite sad to hear about, to be fair.
Yeah. That's the last place you'd expect anything like that to happen, It's supposed to be a place where you feel safe.
Yeah, you seek help.
For one thing, and
that's where you find help. Not that's where you become another victim again.
Maybe he had been drinking, who knows? And that's what inclined him to do that.
Well, activity must be slow in that part of the country, so you find they like to keep themselves entertained.
Yeah, I really don't think a judge would throw down the gavel and sentence a police officer to, let's say, 25 years in prison.
Well, if it's hard to prosecute a police officer who killed 2 innocent people, even that case can't get prosecuted. So what more this one?
It's unlikely for them to end up in prison. Speaking of prison. Yes, the lawyer who was on death row, Keith Mukata. Yes.
Former MP of Chilanga.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One of our very own.
Hey.
Well, our representative in Parliament.
Yes. To respect, can't say it's one of our very own. For those who do not know of the case, Keith Mukata was at his office with a mistress, right? And the security guard came to confront him, and there was some sort of conflict between them, and what happened is Keith Mukata ended up shooting the security guard in cold blood. He was sentenced to death by Zambian courts, and you're up to speed, Mr. Kingpin.
Thanks to His Excellency, our dear President, that sentence has been commuted to life. So he's not going to see the hangman's noose, but he's going to be in prison for the rest of his life.
But on what grounds was this sentence changed?
Well, constitutionally, the president has the power to grant clemency, right? It's called the prerogative of mercy. So it's up to him, according to his own discretion, to decide whether to have somebody released from prison or to commute the sentence like he did in the case of Keith Mukata. So it's a constitutionally enshrined power that the president has.
Good on him.
Yes.
Makes me want to revisit the entire thing, but that's not worth it. He killed someone in cold blood. But the way I look at it, he shouldn't have changed the decision. Because if anything, he should be made an example of. Because he is someone who was in a powerful position. You know, this is someone who should know better, should value the lives of his constituents. And this is someone who murdered someone. Over what exactly?
You know?
An argument?
There were so many stories that were circulating at the time. You know, one of which I heard was something to do with lewd videos, you know, that the guard must have come across, you know, things like that. But ultimately, there is no justification for an act such as that. And for somebody who was in his position to do something like that, it just shows total disregard for the entire justice system. Being a lawyer and being a member of parliament, maybe he thought he could get away with something like that, you know.
Well, he did manage to escape the news, so.
But still, I do remember reading that he had fallen ill while he was in prison, and he was saying that there are efforts to poison him, you know, while he's locked up behind bars. So
I think he's just not used to poor living. So his body is trying to adjust. Talk about poor living. You brought it to my attention the other day that there are only 853,000 vehicles in Zambia. And the population is about 18 million.
yes,
So that means that a great majority of the country are in buses or walking or on bicycles.
yes,
So doesn't that just speak to the gap between the rich and the poor?
it does. The numbers are disproportionate.
Incredibly.
Yes. And if you extend that, you know, and according to some indices, right, markers for development, internet connectivity is one way of determining just whether a country is developed or not, right? And in Zambia we have such it's about what, 6%, I think?
6% of the population is connected to the internet?
If I'm not mistaken.
But from what I've seen, in terms of internet development, you know, in this country, we're sort of going backwards instead of forward. Moving forward, we should have gone from buying bundles, buying data bit by bit, to being able to get that same data at like pennies, if anything, like great amounts, pennies, and then moving from there, we should have been able to have, you know, places that have Wi-Fi, all over, and people at home should be paying like a monthly amount to have unlimited data.
That was a campaign promise. Places with Wi-Fi. The mayor of Lusaka, when he was campaigning for office, he said there would be free Wi-Fi in Lusaka.
But the problem is, when I go into town, I don't know if this is just me, but when I'm in town, I can't even get regular network for my bundles. Let alone find free Wi-Fi.
Exactly. So it's bad. And the thing is, there was a motion that was started in Parliament, right? And the objective of this was to have internet bundles and talk time bundles not have an expiry date.
Yes.
That makes sense, you know. So if you buy your 15 GB, right? If you buy your 20 GB, that should last you until it's done completely, and not a point where you have to top up, you know.
And the effects of this lack of development are showing more than ever, because before you could argue that they had time. They had time to put this whole thing in place. But now we've seen that we have a pandemic, and a lot of people need to work from home. And even all our students, the future of the country, they depend on e-learning. They need to be connected to the internet. They need to access assignments, lectures, all of this. And you find that things are just expensive.
They are. Generally speaking, they are.
Network is bad. People have problems finding legitimate or quality laptops, you know. Just a hotspot and connect. And you know, I had to shout out to Airtel about their bundles. They have reduced the amount of data that you could get for the prices you used to pay.
Their reasons are their own, but from a customer's point of view, that is a move that is not welcome. It should not have happened.
I mean, and I look at the situation and I try and think, are you not making profit? Isn't nearly everybody on Airtel? Don't you find an Airtel booth in every neighborhood you go to? I believe they're making money. Even with their international transactions that you can now have on Airtel Money. So I don't see where the problem is.
It is a capitalist society.
But how do you continue to... Okay, I was thinking, how do you continue to make money when you're treating your customer, you know, this badly? But I remember that our options are very limited in terms of network service providers. We have 3. We have Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel. You find that Zamtel, there are not as many booths. It's hard to find Zamtel talk time. Even them, they've reduced their data, like thinking we'd stick with it just because Airtel. But I don't know what their plan is. So you can't go to Zamtel. Then you have MTN. MTN, they're great. But the problem is we don't always have network in areas. So that leaves just Airtel. You know, and since they're the only ones you could pretty much come to, they can behave however they want.
Definitely. So yesterday, what happened is there was another escape at Mundawanga. A lion.
Oh, yeah. I saw some pictures. The lion was dead.
They had to put it down. So within the past 6 months, no, 3 months actually, this is the second incident that's happened. I remember reading a story of somebody who works with the Wildlife Authority who had to be called in from a wedding in order to tranquilize this lion, put it down, and have them carried over back into its enclosure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think to myself, what type of security protocols are in place at Mundawanga to ensure that something like this doesn't happen? And the fact that it seems to be an occurring incident, the fact that the lions can escape, makes me wonder just how much in danger local residents could be in from a lion attack.
But at the same time, I'm also thinking we're running low on lions because we keep putting them down.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in the outer urban areas, you find people are still hunting lions. So we need to take better care of the lions.
Yes. Lions, tigers, and
but
bears.
How far do you know how far it escaped?
Oh no.
Because when I saw the picture, it still looked like it was
Mm-hmm.
within the park,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they don't have any other measures apart from like kill it.
You could tranquilize it, you know, shoot it with a tranquilizer gun. You know, that'll put it to sleep, and then they can carry it
Back into the cage, yes. I just don't know how it resulted in kill the lion.
Extreme measures.
Simba.
Desperate times call for desperate measures.
What else is on the agenda?
Right, so in the news, we're being told that Zambia is going to receive 8.7 million vaccines. This is under the auspices of the African Union. Mm-hmm. So Cyril Ramaphosa, who is chairman of the African Union, he instituted a program that will ensure that Zambians and African countries are going to receive vaccines for coronavirus. So 8.7 million vaccines are slated to come into Zambia, and they're going to start the rollout campaign of getting people vaccinated. But the thing is, details are scanty at this point. So
we don't know where they're coming from.
We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know the plan that is going to be used to give these vaccines to people who are going to be given first priority, whether there's going to be costs attached to this, which health facilities, which areas, locations. Everything is still in the dark, but there's just the ballpark figure of 8.7 million vaccines.
A lot of people are still are actually boycotting the vaccines still. I saw an article that I guess it was the English government that released a statement saying that you could still be carrying the same virus, and so that means you still need to be on lockdown. So that makes me wonder, what is the point?
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, there are side effects to the vaccines.
Oh yeah, there have been, people have died actually. Quite a number of people have died.
I have seen statistics that say the vaccines are about 8 to 10% effective in older people, age ranges of 75, thereabouts.
8 to 10?
8 to 10% effective.
That's not very good, is it? And it affects them the most. Yes.
I also came across a story saying that for some people who have had coronavirus and they've recovered, their sense of smell has altered. Certain things actually become like repulsive. Okay. The smell of certain things become repulsive. One of which is beer, for instance. Yes. You know, so you take a sip of beer and it just throws you off completely.
I can see how Christians like the idea of that. Get rid of the alcohol.
Yeah, so things.
I don't know. Even just the amount of time it's taken to get these vaccines out, it's quite alarming in the sense that usually they need like a good 5 years to create an effective vaccine.
And the thing is, you're supposed to monitor the people. They take the vaccine, and then you monitor them for like 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 years. And then you know for a fact what the vaccine does, what adverse health effects the people may fall prey to, you know, things like that. So it's very rushed, the whole process, to try and get people vaccinated as soon as possible.
It sort of reminds me of the whole vaping versus smoking thing. People didn't even know what the effects of vaping would be. They just released it. And now it's sort of like a learn as you go kind of thing.
And you find that it's even worser, you know. And the saddening thing is that a lot of the young people have taken highly to it. You know?
Yeah,
they're vaping like crazy. And
there are such stories where like primary students, you know, in the United States are addicted to vaping. And obviously you get all your cool TikTok and YouTube videos where a guy has a vape and he's releasing like 100 different circles out of his mouth, which just glorifies the whole thing.
And you find with all the flavors that are available, it's you could say that it seems to be a more desirous option than just ordinarily, you know, the cigarette and smoking.
Either way, they're both bad for you. Stay away from both, everybody.
Don't do it. So
choose wisely.
There has been a lot of talk about people self-medicating with regards, if they have symptoms for corona, then they'll resort to self-medication. For instance, they'll take like animal drugs, this and that, or steaming.
Yeah, that's become a trend in Zambia. People steam, start burning up herbs. I don't know how it started or who brought it up, but just go to the appropriate places to seek treatment. But I guess it's hard to trust people nowadays, you know. You don't know what information is true anymore. There's so many different sources, so many, just an overload of data, which makes it hard to make a choice. So in the end, people are just like, I'll do it my way.
And the thing is, cost is prohibitive. So people might not be able to afford that initial cost for a certain type of medication. So what they'll opt for is to go for a cheaper option, maybe like herbal remedies, for instance, or maybe somebody recommends someone who knows something that can cure something, so they'll go for that person instead, you know. So it's like gambling with your life, basically. But the thing is, people cannot afford these services, and that's why they turn to these things. You know, it's mind-boggling. Also, there is the case of the Speaker of the National Assembly. So, what he did, apparently, allegedly, is that he paid a fraction of an amount for land that is situated in a multi-facility economic zone. close to about 6 plots. So the multi-facility economic zone is like an industrial park. You know, you have mining, agriculture, machine assembly, equipment, all these things. You know, it's like an area that's designed to foster domestic and foreign exploitation of the markets, right? So the speaker apparently only paid a small amount of what the land was actually valued at, and he was given those plots. You know, he was given land in that multi-facility economic zone area. And the thing is, the multi-facility economic zones, they're sanctioned by the minister responsible for them, you know. So they're not supposed to be built on by a person in his private capacity, as it were, unless if it's an industrial or business or commercial enterprise.
But they still let the sale go through.
Yes.
But there's no legal entity that can, you know, pretty much come in and say that this is illegal. It can be done.
You'd have to use the right channels. You know, I guess maybe when doing due diligence or something like that, the matter came up and they were like, no, this is an irregularity. And first things first, if that land is to be sold, you know, that person is supposed to pay the full price for it.
Yeah.
Without paying that amount of money, then they shouldn't claim title to that land.
It's looking like a deal between friends. You know, no one's using it, or take it. You know,
You see, it's like you think to yourself, maybe there are a few too many of these in the currently as things stand. So it's just another anomaly.
But all these incidents that we discuss, it really just looks like public servants forget themselves. They forget that they are public servants. Every act they should do under, you know, whilst on duty, should serve the public's interest. But it seems like they've just inherited everything and it's theirs to do with as they wish.
Well, one thing that you can say, I think it's safe to say, is that being in those positions, it expedites opportunities that you can come across. You know, it's easy for you to leverage your position in order to attain financial gain, right? So it shouldn't be like that. I guess it's a good thing that this has come to the public eye, and this isn't the first time something of this sort has happened. There was Forest Reserve number 27. So land was apportioned in a forest reserve to these people, and they paid money for it, and they started to construct on the land. And the thing was that it was affecting the water catchment underneath. Yes, and this is water eventually that comes to supply Lusaka.
And, you know, keeps Zesco from saying there's not enough water. Yeah.
You know, so it's an age-old tale of a developing country.
But because we have brought these concerns out into the light, you know, hopefully everybody out there can also start to think about them, see what they can do to make a difference, or at least just get this discussion out there. We should not forget what is happening in the country. We should always remember exactly what's wrong so that we can avoid such tales in the future, because it's been happening so long and it's just going and going.
Yes. So let's hope things will get better for this country, seeing as it's election year and everybody is going to go to the polls. You know, maybe we could have a government that will sweep in and bring about the best for this country. You know,
Yeah.
things at the moment aren't looking too pretty. The dollar to kwacha exchange rate is pretty low. Well, it's pretty high actually.
high.
It's pretty high,
Really high.
not low.
The highest it's ever been.
The highest it's ever been. Commodities, food is expensive.
The cost of living is ridiculous at this moment.
Just recently, there was a fuel shortage in Osaka, and if you talk about also things like poverty levels and unemployment levels, those have skyrocketed through the roof. So,
And what people have to remember is, despite you getting a new government into power, change starts with the individuals. You know, when you start to take care of where you are, it will start to take care of you. So work alongside whoever you choose to vote into power.
I think also we should challenge people to get more involved with the local area representatives. You know, like for one, I think what would be a good idea, and this I heard from a friend. He was of the idea of building a library right here in Chilanga. You know, so you get your local area representative. It could be at the council level, it could be at the legislature level. You get them and you build a library for people to come, because let's face it, you know, sometimes people need a space where they can go away and read, study for school, have access to books, materials. That is like the surefire way that you could lead to the evolution of the mind through access to information.
Definitely. Or you could talk to the DC. Although me myself, I've never actually had a one-on-one meeting with the DC, no matter how many times I've applied. But do your best to get in touch with these local authorities. Share your ideas.
Definitely.
Because it's through ideas that growth happens.
Friday. So, this has been another episode of Chilanga Converses. This has been a Zambian discussion covering issues happening in the land of Zambia. So, if you have anything that you'd like us to talk about, topic requests, suggestions, be sure to hit us up, email us, inbox us, DM, the works. I have been Malundu, aka the Kingpin.
And I have been Mr. Pars, or you can call me Sunday.
Alright, until the next time.
Chilanga Converses.